Good evening, I'm Sana Khan and you're watching Gravitas. This is World is One News, India's only global channel that brings you global news with a South Asian perspective. Now, as White House National Security Advisor Michael Flynn falls under growing pressure over Russia's contacts, Donald Trump is uncharacteristically silent on this. In Sri Lanka, Colonel Karna, an aide of former LTTE chief Prabhakaran, quit the parliament and the Sri Lanka Freedom Party to form a party of his own. We have WION's exclusive chat with Colonel Karna later on the show, but first, a WION exclusive from our West Asia Bureau Chief, Anchal Vohra. The battle for Mosul rages on, but Raqqa is still the stronghold of the Islamic State. After the Assad regime retook Aleppo, Turkey is aiding the Free Syrian Army in Al-Bab in an intense operation there. Confident of its abilities and support, the FSA says it can defeat the Islamic State ISIS. Even in Raqqa, Anchal Vohra is on the Syria-Turkey border meeting the leaders of the Free Syrian Army. Take a look.
We're driving through the south of Turkey, home to Syrian refugees and a safe haven for groups like the Free Syrian Army. Mustafa Hashim was the leader of the Western Front of the Syrian Military Council, in charge of Latakia amongst other cities. He says he fought alongside Salim Idris, the former leader of the Syrian Military Council, supported by the US and the Gulf nations. Owing to his conservative Islamist views, sources tell us America has cut his funding. He landed in Turkey a month ago and now communicates Turkey's commands to fighters in Syria. Dr. Mohammed Al-Bab was leading the Eastern Front of the Syrian war against the Assad regime. He was also a part of the Geneva III, the UN platform to resolve the Syrian crisis. The men have gathered to discuss the plan to retake Raqqa.
Yesterday there was a meeting between the director of CIA and director of Turkish intelligence, and the plan to take over Raqqa was discussed. One is to go from Al-Bab to Raqqa, and that takes 210 kilometers.
So this is 210 kilometers from Al-Bab, from Al-Bab, right? This is Al-Bab. When Al-Bab is taken, then it takes 210 kilometers to take Raqqa. Okay. What's the second plan?
الخطة الأخرى هي التقدم من تل أبيض وباتجاه
Go to Raqqa from Tel Abyad, and that's controlled by PYD, and that's 90 kilometers.
الحزب الكردي وطول المحور 90 كيلومتر.
So it's a much shorter path, but this is the PYD area, right? So why will America support, for FSA to cross the PYD area? Because, they're also supporting PYD.
With the change in Trump administration, we have hope. Maybe the US talks to PYD. And also Raqqa is Arab area. Kurds have no business there.
Get rid of the Kurd problem on way to Raqqa. Clearly, Turkey sees an opportunity in the global fight against ISIS.
The Syrian Military Council is now defunct. The Free Syrian Army exists, but there are many groups and no leader. But the former leader of the Western Front and the Eastern Front of the Syrian Military Council are here in Turkey, and they're planning on how to overthrow ISIS from Raqqa. They say it all depends on the American policy, on Trump's policy. Will he let the Free Syrian Army overtake Raqqa with Turkey's help, or will it be the YPG, the Kurdish forces? Anchal Vohra, WION.
We'll try and get Anchal as well, but right now joining me in the studio is Daniele Pagani. He's WION's correspondent and has covered the war against the Islamic State in detail. Now, Daniele, how credible would you say a force is the Free Syrian Army? Any estimates of their actual numbers, the quality of the fighting or strength? Give us an idea.
So the Free Syrian Army was very credible and very big in the beginning of the revolution. So we are speaking about 2011, 2012, when many soldiers decided to desert the army. Why? Because they didn't want to follow the order given by President Bashar al-Assad to shoot against the demonstrators and the people who were just demanding and asking for more democracy. So that part of the army who decided to desert formed the Free Syrian Army. There were soldiers, officers, and even a general. Okay. So in the beginning it was a very credible force. Right now, many journalists, many specialists, we are even debating if the Free Syrian Army exists or not, or it's just a sort of an umbrella organization where small little groups who are backed by Turkey are trying to fight and they are trying to reconquer a sort of legitimization. Because what happened is that at the end of 2012, 2013, the Free Syrian Army was left alone. So it means no money to pay the salaries of the soldiers. So many of them decided to abandon the Free Syrian Army and join even the Islamic State or Jabhat al-Nusra, which is the Syrian branch of Al-Qaeda. So I would say that right now, to me, the Free Syrian Army is not a very reliable army. And when it comes to knowing how many men they have, it's impossible to know. We don't know. They started probably with 20, 25,000, but now we really don't know. It's impossible to estimate.
Right. And is it also Islamic in its orientation?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. So in the beginning, it was really part of the army. So the Free Syrian Army, the Arab, sorry, not the Free Syrian Army, but the Arab army, which is the official army, the official Syrian army, was pretty much secular. So we cannot define it as an Islamist group. So the Free Syrian Army in the beginning was not an Islamist group. What happened is that when you lack funding, when you lack money, and you're just a simple soldier who wants to fight against the president, and you have an ideal of revolution, which could be also connected with Islam and your very own religion, you are also looking for a salary and money. So you abandon the Free Syrian Army and you enter Islamist groups. But the Free Syrian Army itself is not Islamist. I wouldn't define it so.
Okay, let's get into perspective. Our West Asia Bureau Chief Anchal Vohra is now live with us. Anchal, we're talking about the Free Syrian Army leaders. You met some of them, one an Islamist. Are there, many Islamists in the Free Syrian Army? What did you find?
Well, it's all a bit complicated. There is no specific number of who's Islamic, Free Syrian Army leader and who isn't. But there certainly would be a number because a lot of these people have been switching sides and have been going to Jabhat al-Nusra. Largely, though, this continues to be the most respectable organization that's fighting the Assad regime, at least amongst the Syrians. I'm not sure about the Kurdish. I think Daniele was sort of referring to what perhaps most Kurds would feel. But a lot of Syrians that I have spoken to think that the Free Syrian Army is the most credible organization that's fighting the Assad regime. And they think it essentially was the Free Syrian Revolution that has been hijacked. Now, having said that, yes, there are a lot of these people who've joined Islamist groups. Yesterday, I was with one of the top Free Syrian Army commanders who's leading the Al-Bab operation. We will be playing his interview tomorrow. And right after my interview, because I asked him, you want more weapons, but your weapons are constantly being taken by Jabhat al-Nusra and ISIS. You respond to that. He said they will ensure these weapons are not taken. But the fact of the matter is that right after that interview, he got a call that a lot of his boys had left a Free Syrian Army and wanting to join Jabhat al-Nusra, which is the Al-Qaeda affiliate. So these are the ground realities, very mixed. There is no specific number of how many are Islamists or not. Right. But they certainly exist. And what's even more shocking is that some of them do get support from Turkey.
Also, Anchal, they want to take Raqqa, but it's the YPG that shares the border with the Islamic State. Now, good strategy to support the FSA to take Raqqa. Your thoughts?
Well, a lot of the FSA leaders that I have spoken to say that they would rather go to Idlib and not straight away to Raqqa because they're busy in Al-Bab now, and after the Al-Bab, they would want to control Idlib, which is the center of Jabhat al-Nusra and many other groups, so FSA is present there too. Yes, there are some who want to go to Raqqa, but this is mostly on the insistence of Turkey, is my information. These leaders, the story that we played today, one of them essentially is communicating Turkey's instructions to the Free Syrian Army leaders and others, several other groups. There are so many different kinds of groups and with different names, some a bit more Islamist, some a little bit more moderate, some completely secular. And the people that he knows, he's transmitting Turkey's commands there. Yes, YPG does share the border with Raqqa, but there is some it is important to also know that Raqqa is an Arab area. So if the Kurds go in there, there will be problems for the future too. So there is common enemy. If you see YPG, FSA, Assad regime and Russia, the common enemy is ISIS. But in these groups, there is no unity.
Right. Now, Anchal, we do know you're in transit at this point and we have to let you go. But one quick question before you leave. Which way is the US likely to go?
But it's very difficult to say because Rex Tillerson has said both things. He said that we will improve our relationship with Turkey. And that is perhaps why Turkeys are to kill two birds with one arrow. They want to get to ISIS through Tel Abyad, which essentially would mean going through the YPG areas. They all deal with that problem. Their big problem is the YPG and not ISIS. There are many reports that indicate that the jihadis were going through this border where I am, the Gaziantep-Syria border, quite freely, at least in the initial years. So that's one force, the FSA. They'll have to come with Turkey's, if Turkey wants that, which is what they do. And then there is YPG, then there is also the Assad regime. These three entities can coordinate, but that isn't likely to happen. If they all go to take Raqqa, then they'll be fighting each other, which is also something that is happening on the ground. So Americans will have to sit down and see if they want to sell out the Kurds, then how are they going to go about it? Because they have promised the Kurds, the forces that have been fighting on the ground, that there will be provisions made for them too once their war with ISIS is over. And essentially what they want is a government, I beg your pardon, is a statelet along the Turkey border, and Erdogan, Turkey, does not want that. So it's a difficult one for the United States.
All right, Anchal, thanks so much for joining us there and giving us a perspective on this big story that we're tracking tonight. Coming back to you, Daniele, now, the US may take time to decide what it wants, but what does the FSA really want at this point in time? Does it want a Sharia kind of a state in Syria?
Even that is difficult. It's completely, I mean, it's not one single granite block, okay? So it's not that they want entirely the same thing. The first thing that they want is definitely to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. So that's rule number one, that's objective number one, which is also shared by Turkey, who's financing and using them. We do not have to forget that Turkey has been accused for years to let those 100 kilometers of border open between the city of Al-Bab and the Euphrates River, where jihadis were crossing, petrol was going to Turkey in and out from Islamic State-controlled territory. So the Free Syrian Army nowadays probably also the most reliable actor that Turkey could use to enter the Syrian scene. What the Free Syrian Army wants, they want weapons, they want money, and they want to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. And this is a problem, ultimately, because it will come a moment when they will have to decide if they will do it or not. And it's not a stable area, so it's not going to be easy to solve.
All right. Also, I want your perspective on why is it that Turkey right now is backing the Free Syrian Army now and not before, when earlier when it was an actual army of sorts?
This is because Turkey has been isolated in the area. So when we think about the Syrian civil war, there is one thing we have to understand. It is not about Syria anymore. It's a struggle, it's a hegemony struggle between mainly Sunni and Shia powers, and not precisely under a religious banner. Okay, when I say Shia and Sunni, I say Shia meaning Iran. So Iran is backing hundreds of thousands of militias in Iraq and in Syria. Then Turkey was feeling isolated, so they needed to enter the game. This is why at the end of August they launched the Operation Euphrates Shield, and they started backing groups of Sunni rebels, which many doubt to be very or even too close to formation like Al-Qaeda or the Islamic State, but Jabhat al-Nusra, formerly Al-Qaeda. So this is why Turkey has entered the game. They were feeling isolated in a game where they want to be protagonists and not just spectators.
All right, many players in this region. The situation we do know is quite complicated, but we have to wait and watch as to what is the final path that the Free Syrian Army chooses from here on. Thanks so much, Daniele, for joining us here and sharing your thoughts with us. We're going to take a very short break on Gravitas at this point. When we return, big news from Sri Lanka. Stay with us.